After Donald Trump made a bold statement that he was already ready to begin winding down the military operation against Iran, Washington suddenly started talking about preparing negotiations with the regime in Tehran. And this is connected to the enormous cost the US is incurring for the war, the inability to unblock the Hormuz Strait, and the inability to deal with the energy crisis that has engulfed the planet. Sources in the White House stated that the administration of US President Donald Trump has begun discussing a move toward negotiations with Iran and the parameters of a possible future deal. Trump's special envoy Stephen Witkoff and the American president's son-in-law Jared Kushner are participating in preparations for a diplomatic settlement. However, experts insist that as a result of this war, Iran has ended up in an even more advantageous position than before the war. Although the US is making very ambitious demands, Israel may be dissatisfied with this turn of events since the US allows for the complete preservation of the Iranian regime. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and leave any comment below. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation, subscription, or even sponsorship on the YouTube platform. How to do this? All the links and details are in the description of this video. I will be grateful for any support you can give. So, sources in the White House told Axios that after 3 weeks of war, the Trump administration began preliminary discussions about the next stage and what peace talks with Iran might look like. And this statement coincided with the fact that on Friday, US President Donald Trump stated that he is considering winding down the military operation, although American officials said that the fighting is expected to last at least another 2 to 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Trump's advisors have already begun preparing for diplomatic negotiations. According to sources, any agreement to end the war must include the reopening of the Hormuz Strait, resolving the issue of Iran's stockpiles of highly enriched uranium, and reaching a long-term agreement on Iran's nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and support for proxy forces in the region. In recent days, there has been no direct contact between the US and Iran, although Egypt, Qatar, and the United Kingdom have exchanged intelligence-level messages. And now Egypt and Qatar have informed the US and Israel about the Iranian regime's interest in negotiations, but under very strict conditions. Iran's demands include a ceasefire, guarantees that the war will not resume in the future, and financial compensation. In turn, the US wants Iran to take on 6 commitments. Let's list them now. These are a complete halt of the missile program for 5 years, zero uranium enrichment, and the full dismantling of nuclear facilities in Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo, which the US and Israel bombed last year. Strict external monitoring protocols for the creation and use of centrifuges and related equipment that could contribute to the development of a nuclear weapons program. Arms control agreements with countries in the region. So here's an interesting point. The US says let Iran make agreements with its neighbors. And these agreements will provide for limiting the number of missiles Iran can have to 1,000. And finally, a complete refusal to support and no funding for such proxy groups as Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, or Hamas in Gaza. But there is a problem here. Iran has repeatedly rejected all these demands in the past, even before the war. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated that now the US essentially has to capitulate and stop attacking Iran, and take on the obligation not to resume attacks in the future, and most importantly, pay reparations to Iran. Trump responded that he is, of course, not against negotiations, but at the moment he is not interested in meeting Iran's demands for a ceasefire. Trump also considers the demands for reparations to be futile. But it's funny that Trump's team has already admitted that reparations are still being considered. However, Trump calls them something a little different. One of the White House officials stated that the US could simply return Iran's assets, which have been frozen in the West for years, as part of the deal. But there's another problem. Earlier, Trump stated that the US had already won, that Iran had already capitulated, but in Tehran, there was simply no one to sign the capitulation. Remember, he said this back in the second week of the war. Now, Trump's team is trying to answer 2 key questions. Who in Iran is the best point of control? The main contact for negotiations? And which country is the best mediator? According to American officials, they are trying to figure out who actually makes decisions in Iran and how to contact them. And although Oman, specifically Oman, acted as a mediator in the last round of nuclear talks, the US is looking for another mediator. Ideally, they are considering Qatar. Because of mutual distrust towards the Omanis, because just yesterday I was talking about this in a separate episode about how Oman has now effectively taken Iran's side. Meanwhile, another problem is brewing. Saudi Arabia is trying to reach an agreement with the Ansar Allah Shiite group, which rules northern Yemen, so that the Houthis do not join Iran in the war against the US and Israel. The authorities in Riyadh are relying on the non-aggression agreement reached in 2022. If the Houthis join the conflict, it will automatically expand its geography, and there are concerns because the Houthis control strategic maritime routes. During the war in Gaza, the group effectively paralyzed movement through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, forcing ships and tankers to choose routes around Africa. Now, against the backdrop of Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz, another trade artery may be under threat, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. For Saudi Arabia, this would be disastrous. The situation is made worse by the fact that Saudi Arabia's alternative route for exporting oil through the port of Yanbu also passes close to areas controlled by the Houthis. This makes the region extremely vulnerable in the event of an escalation. The Houthis themselves stated that Yemen's entry into the war is only a matter of time and added that they are ready to block the Bab el-Mandeb Strait at any moment. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation. Links and details are in the description of this video. And I encourage you to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link is also in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.